We're going to focus on Nvidia. It's the biggest story in the market, moving higher, obviously, after their earnings. It has retaken the spot as the most valuable company in the market. It's up 4%. Your take on the quarter and what to do with the stock now is what?
Look, I think Nvidia, we talked about this going into the print earlier this week. It's just in this really singular position, and everybody is aware of that. The multiple's not crazy, given how popular the AI theme is and given how badly people want to be allocated to it. So I wouldn't say it's like this outrageous multiple on expectations. There are tons of stocks like that, and this isn't one of them. Obviously, the growth rate is decelerating. It's still incredible. It's still the most important company in the entire AI theme. It probably will be for years and years to come. We all agree with that. But what are you looking for? So they guided to $45 billion in revenue for Q2. The estimate was $45.9 billion. Some of that you can blame the chips not being able to be sold in China. Fine, we all understand that. The analysts have long ago pulled all of that out of their estimates. In the end, if they can hit that number, it's great. It's just not what Nvidia was doing a year ago, 2 years ago. So I think the stock coming back to this old high, stalling out a little bit, makes sense. I'm along. I'm not going anywhere. Everything that I heard discussed in the Q&A section of the call is exactly what I would have wanted to hear as a continuing long-term shareholder. This company is just absolutely on fire.
Bryn, going in, we talked to you yesterday on Closing Bell ahead of the print. And you suggested, the market was going to be pretty careful about letting this stock go higher from where it was because it had such a great run. Here we find ourselves even higher. We're not that far away from a new high.
So we talked about it yesterday. The options market, I think, was pretty spot on, a plus minus 6% move. Overnight, it was up plus 6 or about 4. And I think ultimately between the run up, but also to Josh's point, where it is right now, trading close to an all-time high. I think to punch above that, you're going to need clarity around China. And whereas Jensen was really clear, I think this is the first call I've ever heard him read a script, first of all. He didn't have one extemporaneous word. It was all very scripted out. I think they're definitely treading lightly.
Is that a problem to you? I saw you're not the only one who's mentioned that. There was an analyst notation today that the call felt closer to an Apple call than an Nvidia one for that same reason. Does that even matter?
I think if it were a consistent quarterly call that he's reading off a script, yes, it would matter because Jensen's always so vibrant and so off the cuff. And so I think right now, he obviously owes a debt of gratitude to Trump for negotiating, with the Saudi and UAE. That was definitely has the president's handprints are, all over it, which is great. And so I think that it's appropriate right now. There's a lot going on, a lot of conversations. I think China, he was really clear, and I thought threaded the needle really well, that half of the AI researchers are in China, $50 billion market, and effectively they're cut out right now. And so I think he's really asking the president when he says this on the call, do we want the globe to be a U.S. tech stack or a Chinese tech stack? And I think we're hopeful that it's a U.S. tech stack. And so I think that there's really good upside if you actually got, as part of the Trump-China negotiations, this reuse of the H-20s, which right now are only good in China. So I think that the stock, like I said yesterday, I think it's capped out close to this level. I think you're going to have to be patient. But once again, this is a great name to add to your portfolio this year. It's a cheap stock. They're going to continue to do billions in revenue. And between Jensen and Colette, it's like Satya and Amy Hood. It's like, to me, one of the best 1-2, CEOs, CFOs out there.
Yeah, Bill, these guys have laid it out well. China issues well known. Which is why it really became, what does demand look like ex-China? That's what the market was keyed on. Jensen Huang saying, quote, global demand for Nvidia's AI infrastructure is incredibly strong. And as AI agents become mainstream, the demand for AI computing will accelerate. And that's what everybody really has tried to push back, especially on the DeepSeek reaction, was this is going to cause more compute, not less. And he really reiterated that. 14 price target increases, 2 upgrades to buy. mostly unknown shops that did that, but nonetheless, those are the calls you get. You own the stock too.
Yeah, it is our largest position at this moment here. I really like what we heard from Jensen. Scripted or not, I mean, if there's time to script out the call, this would be it. This sort of a treacherous sort of time here, charging off the H20s, everything that's going on geopolitically. But to your point, he highlighted Microsoft deploying tens of thousands right now of their GPUs, and it's going to turn into hundreds of thousands of the Blackwells. And at that point, too, all of these hyperscalers, they are going to have to follow. I think some of the price targets raising, they're trying to just beat people to it. Yeah, I would, to Josh's point, consolidate. I think it's fair to expect that right here. Maybe, giving back some of this 135 to 155 consolidation. But I now think, a month ago, you asked me about 180. I now think 180 is the next stop up here as it consolidates. Let's talk about something else. Free cash flow. Free cash flow, $26 billion this quarter, $72 billion in the last 12 months. $13 billion they're returning to shareholders in buybacks right now. $40 billion in buybacks trailing 12 months. They're returning cash to shareholders, and that's powering the stock as well. I expect that to continue. The fact they were able to meet that expectation in revenue, $45 billion, tells you that free cash flow is coming still.
Certainly helps the semis trade, which has been on fire in the month of May after sucking wind for a while. It's the best month since May of 23, so 2 years for the SMH. Winners across the board, not just Nvidia, obviously. Micron's 26, Microchip, which you have the preferreds in. It's Broadcom, which reports next week, reiterated by today, 205 at Deutsche Bank's the price target there, Taiwan Semi, Lam, and AMD.
Right, but I think we need to be careful when saying, hey, this is a great month. I had a client ask me the other day, they said, why is the Microchip preferred that you bought from me a month and change ago up 40+%? And I said, because it shouldn't have been down 60%. So there was that really just like all the air was sucked out of the room in early April, and it reset those prices. So a lot of these huge upward moves are really not because their stories have changed, I don't think, but just because the share prices a month and change ago were down too much.
That's a good point. The SMH itself, the index, is only 13% off of 52-week highs, but the median stock in the SMH ETF is 36% below its 52-week high. So the benefit of the SMH is that 40% of it is the top three names. It's Nvidia, it's Taiwan Semi, and it's Broadcom. And the other 60%, they've rallied, obviously, with the overall market. They're nowhere near those old cycle highs. I don't know if they get back, but it's almost not that important to the NASDAQ because they're just not big enough. There's only one stock in the SMH that's below its 50-day moving average. Can you tell me what it is?
Microchip?
Intel.
Oh, Intel. Oh, sorry, I've blacked that out.
The entire,
do you know that I've blacked it out?
Yes. The entire
I don't even
index,
know what you're talking about.
You've never heard of Intel.
Never heard of it.
The entire index short term is rallying, but those big three are really the critical names in the space, and they look good.
Yeah. This is a helper, if nothing else, Bryn, to the overall big cap tech trade. You couldn't have Nvidia do anything to question demand. You would see many of those stocks down today, and they're not having the greatest day. However, the NASDAQ has just been a ripper this month, up 10%. The MAG 7 ETF, which is known as the MAGs, best month ever since the inception, as many of those names have just absolutely ripped this month.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think besides, Jenny's very, very accurate point about a mean reversion trade, I think what you're seeing, and I think going back to the call with Jensen, he's like, AI diffusion is off the table. We're not seeing these hallucinations. These AI reasoning models are coming. And so it's like we're getting these very large step functions up versus more linear incremental. And then you heard Microsoft talk about it and Jensen about these tokens, but all these tokens getting used and the cost of the tokens coming down. And so I just think you're really seeing this not only adoption, but I think it's important ultimately, this return on equity, which at some point, we see the return on equity Nvidia, but I think Microsoft talked about it as well. They're doing really well. And so I think these names are tough not to own because of the free cash flow, of the growth, of the opportunities going forward.